February was marked by intensive diplomatic activity for Azerbaijan. The month started with President Ilham Aliyev's working visit to the United Arab Emirates, where he was awarded the 2026 Zayed Award for Human Fraternity in recognition of his efforts to promote peace and regional cooperation. In his address at the award ceremony, President Ilham Aliyev reflected on a historic 6 months in relations with Armenia, highlighting breakthroughs in trade and connectivity.
We not only lifted the restrictions on cargo transportation through Azerbaijan to Armenia, but also started to export oil products to Armenia. In other words, in these 6 months, we started cooperation. We are now increasing our trade relationship.
During the UAE visit, President Ilham Aliyev also met Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. The leaders welcomed the progress following the Washington Peace Summit, underscoring the need to maintain momentum, broaden confidence-building measures, and encourage civil society exchanges. Another major highlight came on February 10th, when US Vice President J.D. Vance visited Baku as part of his South Caucasus tour. The discussions with President Aliyev were extensive, culminating in the signing of a charter on strategic partnership and elevating US-Azerbaijan relations to a new level. Key pillars of the partnership include regional connectivity, enhancing energy routes, trade links, and transit corridors. Economic investment, focusing on AI and digital infrastructure. Security cooperation, strengthening regional stability.
One of the important results of Trump-Vance administration's efforts in our region is implementation of Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, TRIP, which will not only connect two parts of Azerbaijan, but also will be a very reliable, safe, and large-scale transportation corridor which will connect Asia with Europe through the territory of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and other neighbors, thus strengthening what has been achieved on the peace track in the region.
And I think that partnership, the partnership of the United States and Azerbaijan, will lead to greater peace and prosperity in the region. It will lead to more access to more markets for the workers of the United States of America, and it's just going to create a much better world where people are engaging in commerce with one another rather than fighting with one another.
On February 15th, Belgrade hosted the first Strategic Partnership Council between Azerbaijan and Serbia. Presidents Ilham Aliyev and Aleksandar Vučić reaffirmed their commitment to deepening cooperation. Highlights included construction of a 500-megawatt gas turbine power plant in Serbia, agreements and memoranda between Serbia and Azerbaijan in food safety, economic collaboration, media and communications, culture, sports, and health insurance. Plans for direct Baku-Belgrade flights starting May 2026. Expansion of AI-driven data centers and defense industry collaboration. Azerbaijan and Armenia also advanced dialogue in Washington before the inaugural session of the Peace Board on February 19th. The two leaders held a brief meeting, focusing on the current progress of the peace process between their countries. Both Azerbaijan and Armenia accepted US President Donald Trump's invitation to join the Peace Board as founding members in January. The board was originally established to oversee the administrative transition in Gaza following Hamas rule. However, its mandate has since expanded to focus on developing and sharing best practices that can be applied by nations and communities around the world seeking sustainable peace. Azerbaijani people commemorated the memory of the innocent civilians brutally massacred 34 years ago in the city of Khojaly. On February 25 to 26, 1992, together with the former USSR's 366th Motorized Rifle Regiment, Armenian troops razed the city of Khojaly to the ground. As a result of the genocide carried out by Armenian militaries against the Azerbaijani civilians, 613 civilians were killed, including 106 women, 63 children, and 70 elderly people. A total of 1,275 civilians were taken hostage, and the fate of more than 150 of them remains unknown. On February 26, President Ilham Aliyev inaugurated the Khojaly Genocide Memorial Complex. The memorial's design features hands encircling the site, symbolizing protection for Khojaly's residents. In his address, President Ilham Aliyev called the complex a testament to the unbending spirit of the Azerbaijani people. He criticized international organizations and leading countries for ignoring the tragedy and attempting to cover up the crime by the Armenian state. The head of state highlighted Azerbaijan's pursuit of justice step by step, recognition of the genocide by 20 countries, victory in the patriotic war, liberation of Khojaly, and the trial of the perpetrators in Baku. Earlier in the month, the Baku military court has announced verdicts in the criminal case against former leaders of the dismantled separatist regime in Karabakh and several other Armenian citizens accused of crimes against peace and humanity, war crimes, terrorism, and other serious offenses. Arayik Harutyunyan, along with Levon Natsakanyan, David Manukyan, David Ishkanyan, and David Babayan, received life sentences. Other defendants were sentenced from 15 to 20 years, including Arkady Gukasyan, Bako Sahokyan, and Madat Babayan. In a related development, on February 17, Ruben Vardanian, a citizen of Armenia, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Russia's hybrid warfare against Azerbaijan shows no signs of abating. In an interview with local media, Air Center Chairman Farid Shafiev outlined the key factors behind this escalation. First, he stated that following the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash and the ensuing tensions, Moscow seemed to anticipate that Baku would adopt a more conciliatory stance. However, President Ilham Aliyev remained firm. Second, he stressed that Russia's recent actions contradict the spirit of the 2022 Declaration on Allied Interaction between the two countries. Third, he argued that Moscow's influence across the post-Soviet space has weakened, while engagement by the United States in the South Caucasus has increased, prompting Russia to intensify its hybrid measures amid declining leverage and economic challenges.